Welcome to Straight Talk on Project Management, an unscripted and unedited video series with Stoneseed's David Cotgreave. Get in touch with David and find out more about Stoneseed at stoneseed.co.uk. Episode 1, introducing David and Stoneseed, and hear David's thoughts on the post-pandemic state of the project management industry. So David, tell me about yourself and your role, and tell me about who Stoneseed are.
Okay, well, I'm David Cotgreave. I'm Professional Services Director at Stoneseed, and for the last 10 or 11 years we've been helping clients achieve successful project outcomes through the provision of flexible on-demand resources, project resources that is, and we deliver those through what we call Project Management as a Service, or PMaaS as we refer to it. And we deliver thousands of days of project managers, program managers, business analysts, technical design authority, PMO, that's Project Management Office, resources and expertise across clients, across multiple sectors, different shapes, different sizes, which actually gives us quite a unique position, really, and insight, I suppose, into what works and what doesn't work, some of the challenges that clients are facing, and it is privileged to be able to have that oversight, if you like, across what's going on in projects, and particularly in IT projects. So we're about delivering business change, but business change that's supported or enabled some way by IT. And that's what Stoneseed does. We deliver and we help clients to deliver successful project outcomes.
You're quite a prolific blogger, I think, as well, aren't you? Tell me a bit about your blogs.
Yeah, so that observation, I suppose, that ability to see into what clients are doing, how things are working for them. We take those observations and create blogs on a weekly basis, which has quite positive readership across social media. We also put those into Straight Talk Project Management volumes, so books that we publish as well. I think we're on volume 4 now of those, and it's a cross section, I suppose, of anecdotal scenarios that we come across and I come across on a weekly, daily basis, as well as some sort of views and thoughts, I suppose, about the state of project management and the general direction that it's moving in.
It must be quite therapeutic writing those, like dumping your thoughts on paper, like writing a diary.
Yeah, absolutely, and it also helps, I suppose, to gather those thoughts and then be able to apply those in a client environment, because it would be very easy to try and over-engineer the project world, life cycles, governance, methodologies, tool sets, etc., when actually what it's about is being pragmatic and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then taking time out to think about, well, how's that being applied in different scenarios, how's that applied in non-IT environments, is therapeutic, but it's also of benefit, I hope and I believe, to our clients as well.
What's the state of the industry post-COVID? Have things changed, and how have they changed?
I think things have changed for everybody, really. Everybody's been through a challenging 2 years, both personally and professionally, and for ourselves as an organisation, as we entered March 2020, things took a bit of a nosedive and dropped off a cliff, because organisations had spent a few weeks, I think, processing what COVID meant for their organisation, and then decided to stop projects, that is, because it was something that needed a lot of resource often, and was going to take 6, 9, 12 months to deliver. So it made sense for them to pause those projects. As a provider of resources, albeit flexible on-demand resources, into a client base, that meant that they could pick up the phone and say, can you stand those resources down, which of course our model allows them to do. But what that's now meant, as we've kind of seen the industry pick up again, seen businesses start to re-engage, start to understand how best to go about delivering those projects, we're actually rushed off our feet, if I'm perfectly honest, and I think that's for a couple of reasons. So organisations that had to trim down their resource pool. And unfortunately, that seemed to be in project management area and PMO area quite a lot. And as demand internally for projects has picked up, then clients have said, well, how do we go about resourcing that? And they've got a few options, haven't they? So they can go and they can bring people back onto payroll. They could go out to the contract market, or they can come to somebody like us that, you know, provides the PMaaS service. And for a lot of them, that flexibility, that on demand, that ability to turn it on, turn it off, turn it up and turn it down, as I always say, actually is considerably more valuable, I think, to them now, having been through you know, the experiences that everybody's been through, rather than, you know, creating a large and, you know, potentially unwieldy project type environment. So I think that things are therefore, you know, going to be different, and we hear lots of people saying about building back and building back better. You know, organisations have had to find more efficient ways of doing things, different ways of doing things, remote working. You know, technology plays obviously a huge part in all of that. And therefore, do I see organisations and their approach to projects going back to how it was, you know, sort of pre-pandemic? No, I don't think I do, and I don't think it needs to. I think people have proven that they can deliver projects remotely. Clearly, there's some instances where face-to-face and getting together is valuable, and we couldn't always do that, accepted. So, you know, I think that will come back. But this whole kind of approach to hybrid working, and I think hybrid is quite an important word, you know, across everything to do with project management, actually. You know, hybrid approach in terms of methodologies and life cycles, etc. Hybrid approach to where you physically are. You know, hybrid approach to multidisciplinary working and focusing on sort of business value and creation rather than just delivering. I think all those things have changed. But what is quite interesting is if you try and consider, or just consider actually for a moment, why projects often stumble and, you know, some of the challenges. And, you know, if you say, well, okay, for a project to really succeed, you know, you need buy-in. So you need everybody to understand and be fully bought into what it is, why you're doing it, but most importantly, what the actual benefit longer term is going to be. And you need resources available, both in terms of people and technology, and you also need the funding to do it. And that often isn't, you know, all of those 5 variables are often not, you know, fully bought into or accepted or available to you as a project manager. And when that happens, things start to fail. And, you know, people have different views, people think things should be done in slightly different ways, money dries up, other projects come along that are more critical, etc., etc., etc. The list is endless. But just consider the development of the COVID vaccination for a second and look at that. You know, everybody, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think that the wisdom at the time was that it would take, you know, 10 to 15 years to produce a vaccination that had been through all of the regulatory gates and was available to the general public, and they did it in a year. And you say, well, why did they do it in a year? Well, because those criteria were met. So everybody had a common purpose to produce a vaccine. Everybody had a common view of what the benefits were, that actually that would be a way of reducing COVID infection, spread, deaths, etc., etc. Resources were made available. Everybody just focused 100% on producing that. Collaboration, etc., came into that as well across different organisations. Funding was made available to them, and it took priority. Nothing else came in to, you know, dislodge it. And I think it's quite an interesting sort of parallel that because it's very rare that you get to observe how a project with all of the moving parts that are required to make it a success actually all come together and are there unhindered, and you can see what can be done. So I think that there's, learning to be had there, and it's important for everybody to say, well, yeah, it does matter actually. I do need people to understand. I do need to put the effort in up front. Yes, the governance and process is important, as it was with the vaccination, but it's also critical to ensure that you've got kind of that buy-in and that communication throughout.
Next time, project trends, Stoneseed client needs, and the evolution of project management as a service. You can get in touch with Stoneseed's David Cotgreave and find out more about Stoneseed at stoneseed.co.uk. In the meantime, thank you for watching and goodbye.